In the quiet town of Jackson, Mississippi, a seemingly ordinary afternoon takes a dramatic turn when Officer Marcus O'Arian encounters James Matthew, a well-dressed black man walking through a predominantly African-American neighborhood. The encounter, charged with tension and injustice, sets the stage for an unexpected and eye-opening revelation. Marcus, initially unaware of the gravity of his actions, finds himself face-to-face with a profound lesson in humility and redemption when he discovers that James is his new boss. Watch as this intense and transformative story unfolds, revealing the true meaning of strength, forgiveness, and personal growth. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. As the afternoon deepened, the sky above the small town of Jackson, Mississippi, was gradually cloaking itself in a dense, heavy gray. The day's warmth had begun to give way to a somber chill, and the streets lay eerily quiet, as if the impending rain had issued an unspoken command for everyone to seek refuge indoors. Though the day seemed unremarkable to most, it was about to take an unforeseen turn for Marcus O'Arian, a young police officer whose shift at the station was poised to shift in a way he hadn't anticipated. At 25 years old, Marcus had been on the force for 3 years, approaching his duties with a blend of determination and occasionally a hint of arrogance. Raised in the suburban comfort of a middle-class household, Marcus had always been somewhat insulated from the harsher realities of life. The whispers of racial tension that lingered in the background of his upbringing were subtle yet persistent, a constant undercurrent in his environment. This background had instilled in him a certain level of self-satisfaction, a reflection of his youthful confidence and early achievements on the force. Marcus was a striking figure, tall, with neatly trimmed blonde hair and sharp blue eyes that could chill anyone who encountered him, especially those who weren't familiar with the softer side of his nature. Despite his commanding presence, there was an internal struggle within him, a shadowy doubt that he couldn't quite articulate. This uncertainty occasionally manifested in moments of unwarranted harshness, a defense mechanism against his insecurities. On this particular day, that inner shadow seemed to direct his attention toward a young man making his way through the south side of town. The encounter was about to unfold in a way that would challenge Marcus's perceptions and force him to confront the complexities of his own identity and the role he played within the community. In a neighborhood renowned for its rich, predominantly African-American heritage, James Matthew stood as a prominent figure. At 33 years old, he was a man of considerable stature, both physically and in character. His build was solid and imposing, a testament to years of hard work and resilience. James exuded a calm, unshakable demeanor that reflected his inner strength and confidence. His deep black skin shimmered subtly under the reflection of the moisture-laden air, a living canvas of his experiences and the countless challenges he had faced. Every aspect of his appearance seemed to tell a story of perseverance and dignity. His features, a blend of pride and humility, conveyed the journey he had traveled from the harsh realities of his past to the proud man he had become. Each step he took was a testament to his enduring spirit and the adversities he had conquered. James's upbringing was deeply rooted in his Catholic faith, nurtured by his devout mother, who had raised him with unwavering dedication to the principles of faith and justice. From a tender age, he had been taught that a person's true dignity was not measured by their skin color but by their response to life's trials. His mother instilled in him the belief that the essence of a man was revealed not by the challenges he faced, but by his courage and integrity in confronting them. As James made his way to his destination, the dark suit he wore seemed to enhance his already sophisticated demeanor, lending an air of understated elegance to his presence. The setting sun cast long shadows across the street, accentuating the contrast between his polished attire and the surrounding urban landscape. As he walked with a purposeful stride, his attention was drawn to the distant rumble of a police car making its way down the road. The vehicle's siren, though not blaring, emitted a low, insinuating hum that seemed to echo through the quiet evening. This subtle sound prompted James to glance over his shoulder with a mix of curiosity and caution, his senses on high alert. Behind the wheel of the patrol car, Officer Marcus scrutinized James with a gaze that seemed more analytical than casual. To Marcus, the sight of a well-dressed black man in this particular neighborhood was more than enough to warrant further scrutiny. As the police car drew nearer, Marcus's expression hardened, and he rolled down the window with a deliberate motion. With a commanding voice that carried a sharp edge, he called out, "Hey you, where do you think you're going?" The forcefulness of his tone was evident, and James halted in his tracks, taken aback by the unexpected confrontation. Maintaining his composure, James took a deep breath and stood still, careful to avoid any sudden movements that might be misinterpreted. The weight of the situation was clear to him. Any misstep could potentially be seen in a negative light, and he knew that staying calm was crucial in navigating this tense encounter. "Good afternoon," Officer James said with a polite nod, though he couldn't entirely mask the flicker of irritation that momentarily sparked in his eyes. Marcus stepped out of his patrol car, the creak of the door mingling with the rhythmic thud of his heavy boots on the rain-slicked pavement. As he approached James, the difference in their heights was immediately noticeable, but the disparity in perceived authority was even more pronounced. Marcus's gaze traveled over James with deliberate scrutiny, pausing briefly on his tailored suit and his polished watch, and finally settling on his face, as if searching for any hint of wrongdoing or guilt. "A meeting," is it? Marcus's voice carried a trace of skepticism as he raised an eyebrow. "And what kind of meeting could that be?" "You certainly don't seem like you're from around here." James inhaled deeply, struggling to keep his composure as the simmering anger inside him began to surface. It wasn't the first time he had been stopped without a clear reason, but there was an unsettling tension in the air today. It was as if the routine interaction had the potential to escalate into something far more serious, and James couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was different from the others. "It's a business meeting," Officer Marcus said, his voice edged with irritation. "I don't see why it's necessary to detain me over that." His words were accompanied by a short, humorless laugh that reverberated off the surrounding buildings, the sound cutting through the cold air like a knife. James, aware of the escalating tension, kept his demeanor calm and composed. "I understand it's work," he said, nodding slowly, "but I need to see some identification." Quickly, Marcus demanded, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. James carefully reached for his wallet, each movement deliberate and unhurried, as if to signal his compliance and reduce any perceived threat. He extracted his ID and handed it over to Marcus. The officer took it with a look of obvious disdain, his gaze scanning the card with a critical eye. James Matthew Marcus read aloud, his voice dripping with skepticism. "And where is it you claimed to be employed before?" Before James could offer any clarification, the shrill, urgent sound of Marcus's radio cut through the air. The dispatcher's voice crackled with urgency, relaying an important and immediate order from the station. All officers were being called back right away due to a pressing situation that demanded their attention. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. The sudden interruption seemed to momentarily shift the officer's focus as he turned his attention to the radio, his expression a mixture of surprise and frustration. Marcus tossed the ID back to James with a dismissive flick of his wrist, a gesture that carried more than just disdain. "Look, just get out of here before I change my mind," he snapped, his tone dripping with condescension. With that, Marcus turned on his heel and strode back toward his car, the engine rumbling to life as he pulled away. James bent down and retrieved his ID from the ground, his expression remaining a mask of stoic calm. Internally, though, he felt a sharp sting of humiliation, a burn that seemed to sear through his composure. But instead of reacting with anger or sarcasm, he chose silence, turning away and resuming his path. He understood that true justice was not to be sought in the immediate moment, but would come in due course. The following morning, an air of palpable unease hung over the police station, thick and charged. Whispers and murmurs flitted through the hallways as officers exchanged furtive glances and hushed conversations. There was a collective sense of anticipation, as if the very walls of the precinct were bracing for an impending revelation. Marcus arrived at the station, and the atmosphere grew even more tense. His colleagues avoided his gaze, their conversations dropping to whispers as he passed by. The unease was not just in the air, but in the unspoken words and sidelong looks exchanged among the officers. Captain Reynolds, a middle-aged man with a distinguished gray beard and a voice that could command a room, had been unusually reserved and distant in recent days. His typically authoritative demeanor had given way to a somber and contemplative air. Now, the reason for Captain Reynolds' subdued behavior was on the cusp of being unveiled, and the entire station was poised for the fallout of what was to come. The tension was a prelude to an inevitable reckoning, and everyone knew that the storm was about to break. Attention! Officers Captain Reynolds commanded, his voice steady and authoritative, yet devoid of any unnecessary volume. The firmness in his tone made it clear that his instructions were to be followed without question. Gather in the conference room. Marcus, along with his fellow officers, made their way to the conference room. As he walked, a subtle sensation of unease crept up his spine. Though he had not deviated from his usual conduct, aside from the recent incident involving a well-dressed black man in the southern part of Jackson's scenario not uncommon in their line of work, discomfort lingered. In a city like Jackson, such encounters were routine, yet Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that today was different. When the officers assembled in the conference room, Captain Reynolds cleared his throat, commanding silence and drawing the officers' full attention. The room was filled with an expectant hush as he prepared to deliver his announcement. "I want all of you to be aware that today we will be welcoming a new police chief," he began, allowing the weight of his words to settle in. The news spread through the room like a ripple, each officer processing the implications. Marcus sensed the palpable shift in the atmosphere, a thickening of tension as the officers absorbed the information. Captain Reynolds continued, his voice carrying a note of seriousness. "He's someone who has worked exceptionally hard to achieve this position, and I'm confident he will bring significant changes to our unit. Therefore, I expect each of you to extend him the respect and professionalism that his new role demands." The room buzzed with murmurs and speculation as the officers exchanged glances, the news stirring a mix of curiosity and apprehension about the forthcoming changes. The murmurs in the room grew louder, a cacophony of uneasy speculation. The arrival of a new boss inevitably brought with it the promise of changes, and for many this prospect was less than appealing. The air was thick with apprehension, especially for Marcus, who felt a gnawing anxiety. Although his position within the team was generally considered secure, the arrival of a new boss had the potential to unsettle the delicate balance he had carefully maintained. At last, the door to the meeting room swung open, and in strode the new police chief. The room fell silent instantly, the hum of conversation ceasing as every eye turned toward the figure entering with purposeful strides. It was James Matthew, impeccably dressed in a dark suit that spoke of both authority and sophistication. The same James Matthew who had been on the receiving end of Marcus's harsh treatment the previous afternoon. Marcus's initial look of confusion swiftly transformed into disbelief, his face flushing with a cocktail of fear and shame. As James made his way to the front of the room, his gaze scanned the officers, who were now watching him with a blend of astonishment and grudging respect. When James's eyes finally met Marcus's, he maintained an outward composure but allowed a faint, knowing smile to curve his lips. The subtle gesture was charged with unspoken acknowledgement, a silent reminder of their last encounter and the shifting dynamics now at play. "Good morning, gentlemen," James began, his voice steady and authoritative. "I'm James Matthew, and as of today, I'll be your new police chief. I recognize that some of you may already know me, and I look forward to the opportunity for us to become better acquainted in the days ahead." The room fell into a heavy silence, the atmosphere thick with unspoken tension. It was as if the air itself had been weighted down by the gravity of the announcement. Marcus, stationed at the back, remained motionless, his mind racing in overdrive, as he struggled to comprehend the situation unfolding before him. The events of the previous day replayed in his head like a relentless loop, each detail of his encounter with James flashing back with unnerving clarity. He felt an overwhelming sense of entrapment, like a fly caught in a web. Uncertainty gnawed at him, leaving him anxious about how he might navigate the precarious situation he had inadvertently found himself in. The knowledge that James was now his superior added a layer of unease to his predicament, and Marcus was left grappling with the implications of this unexpected turn of events. James addressed the room with a calm yet commanding presence, his voice resonating with a blend of authority and empathy. He laid out his vision for revitalizing the police force and enhancing its relationship with the community. As he spoke, he observed Marcus's expression mix of realization and unease as the gravity of his earlier actions became apparent. Despite the circumstances, James's demeanor was devoid of malice. His mother had instilled in him the belief that true strength lay not in seeking revenge, but in embracing compassion and forgiveness. James continued, "And for those who might be wondering, yes, I have been a part of Jackson for many years. I know this city intimately, the challenges it faces, and the potential solutions we can explore together. I want you all to understand that my purpose here is to collaborate with you. Not to oppose you," he said, pausing for a moment to let his words resonate with his new team. His gaze swept across the room, ensuring that his message was sinking in. "But I must also be clear," James added with a firm, unwavering tone, "I will not stand for any form of discrimination or misuse of authority. This represents a new chapter for all of us, chance to rebuild trust, foster integrity, and create a positive impact within our community. Together we can forge a path forward, embracing this opportunity for growth and reform." With those words, James concluded his address, setting the stage for a transformative era in the police force and making it clear that the commitment to justice and respect would be at the heart of their mission. James gave Marcus one final, deliberate glance before turning away. His look wasn't tinged with resentment, but rather carried a profound sense of opportunity, an opportunity for Marcus to reflect, evolve, and seek redemption. It was a silent yet potent gesture, one that spoke volumes more than any words of reprimand ever could. The gravity of the moment was evident, and James's unspoken message seemed to cut through the air with clarity. As James exited, the room fell into an uneasy silence. The officers, sensing the charged atmosphere, began to leave one by one, their low voices creating a backdrop of subdued chatter. The murmurs were filled with a mix of curiosity and unease as they processed the events of the day. Marcus, however, remained seated, seemingly frozen in place. The encounter from the previous day replayed in his mind, each detail echoing with an intensity that left him feeling trapped in a loop of self-reproach. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. The weight of his actions pressed heavily on his conscience, a burden he had never before experienced so acutely. It was as though the silence of the room mirrored the turmoil within him, a stark reminder of the consequences of his behavior and the need for introspection and change. Captain Reynolds approached Marcus with a firm yet reassuring grip on his shoulder. The gesture was meant to be both friendly and cautionary. "You'd better talk to him," O.R.N. Reynolds said in a low voice. "This is your moment to demonstrate what kind of man you truly are." Marcus, understanding the gravity of the situation, nodded solemnly. He rose from his seat with visible effort, acknowledging the challenge ahead. The hallway beyond was nearly deserted, its quietness amplifying the weight of the moment. In the distance, Marcus spotted James making his way toward his new office, the confidence in his stride contrasting sharply with Marcus's mounting unease. Marcus knew he could no longer postpone this conversation. With a deep breath, he called out, "Mr. Matthew," his voice betraying a hint of vulnerability that surprised even him. James halted and turned slowly, his movements deliberate. For an instant, the world seemed to pause. As their eyes locked, the rigid hierarchy that had previously defined their interactions melted away. In that space, they were no longer bound by rank or authority. They were simply two individuals facing a pivotal moment. Marcus felt the weight of the conversation ahead and the chance to convey his true intentions and respect. "I want to apologize for yesterday," Marcus said, his voice laden with genuine remorse. "I had no idea who you were at the time, and I acted in a completely unacceptable way. I am deeply ashamed of my behavior." James listened in silence, allowing Marcus's apology to resonate fully before responding. The room remained still, the weight of the moment hanging palpably in the air. After a few thoughtful seconds, James finally nodded, signaling his acknowledgement of Marcus's sincerity. "I appreciate your apology, Officer O'Reilly," James replied, his tone calm and measured. "More than that, though, I hope you'll use this as an opportunity to make a meaningful change. Both in your conduct and in your interactions with others, we all have room to grow and improve." Marcus nodded, his feelings a complex blend of relief and trepidation. This was not merely an apology, but a new beginning, one that would require him to engage in self-reflection and make a concerted effort to better himself. As James moved on to his next engagement, Marcus watched him leave with a profound sense of respect and an understanding of the challenging journey that lay ahead. This moment, though difficult, presented a chance for personal redemption and professional growth, and Marcus was determined to seize it. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this story both engaging and thought-provoking. It's a powerful reminder of how our actions and judgments can impact others, and how we can all seize opportunities for growth and redemption. So, what have you learned from this story? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please comment below and share one thing you've learned that you plan to put into practice in your own life. Your insights can inspire others and foster meaningful conversations. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content that uplifts and inspires. Thank you for your support.